Hello, my fellow collectors, and welcome back to the Matt Impish Collector channel. Today, we are going to be talking about D23. Now, if you don't know, D23 is a Disney convention. It's kind of like a Disney Comic-Con. It's a little self-aggrandizing, but it's literally just Disney going up and doing a bunch of Disney things, talking about new Disney announcements and everything. They do it every 2 years. They normally have 3 big panels, typically one about like movies and entertainment, and then another one about the theme parks, and then another one like the Disney Legends, where they honor a bunch of people related to Disney, like celebrities and people that worked on movies and stuff. And it's a big deal, but important for the purposes of this channel is they also do a lot of smaller panels, usually like merch-related panels or panels related to different aspects of the Disney company or like movies that are having anniversaries and stuff like that. But they are going to be having a Lorcana panel this year on Friday the 14th. There will be a Lorcana panel. Now, 2 years ago at D23 2024, they also did a Lorcana panel. And what I want to do is kind of try to predict what I think we will see at the Lorcana panel for D23 2026, this upcoming in about 2 weeks. Kind of base it on what we saw last time, where the game is right now, and just what I expect to see. I've got a bunch of pretty safe picks, but then at the end I'll do a few wild cards and kind of go from there. So yeah, this is an unscripted video, but I did write down my thoughts a little bit that I'll be looking at from time to time. So if you see me look over, anyway, let's start by saying last D23, that was right before As Right See. So they were 5 sets in, and most of that panel was spent talking about As Right See, the upcoming set. They revealed a handful of cards for that. They talked about the World's Championship coming to Walt Disney World, as well as the European Championship happening at Disneyland Paris, and the North American Championship happening at Disneyland. Those were like 3 of the big things that they announced. They also announced what they were going to call like collectors events. That never really came to fruition, although they have done like collectors challenge or collectors quests and stuff like that. So there have been sort of that, just not a standalone event, just add other events. And then they announced, the big things that they announced were a handful of new IPs coming to the game, specifically Rescue Rangers, The Black Cauldron, Pocahontas, and the big one was Pixar. They announced that Pixar would be coming to the game. Obviously, Pixar just hit the game, so that was 2 years ago, and it finally showed up. So and that was really it. Other than that, they just kind of went into like discussing the design philosophies of the game, and they showed off some like concept art and stuff. It was actually really cool, but it wasn't like a hugely informative panel when it comes to news. But now that Lorcana is kind of more established, I expect that we might get a little bit more news this time. So what do I really expect to see? Well, the main thing, I do expect to see more information about the big tournaments. I expect that we'll see the North American and European finals announced for the same kind of deal, Disneyland and Disneyland Paris, and we'll see Worlds announced for Walt Disney World. For this next this current season of the DLCs. I do think that this time Worlds will be an open event, not open necessarily for you to compete, but open for you to go and, compete in side events, and it'll be like a big whole thing. Last time, I don't know if it was budgetary reasons or what, they ended up announcing it as this big whole thing, and then it ended up being invite only. Like, you couldn't go at all unless you were invited and competing, and it really upset the community. I think this time that it is going to be open to everybody. If you can get a ticket, and then you can go. It'll only be, the winners who will be playing, but if I wanted to go and hang out and watch the games and compete in some side events and stuff, I think I think they will announce that is going to happen. I also think that we are going to get another championship in Tokyo Disneyland. I think that the game has really taken off in Japan. It has finally caught up in Japan to America. We are now on the same set cadence. So I suspect that we might hear something about an event being held at Tokyo Disneyland. Now, Tokyo Disneyland is not owned by the Disney company. completely. It is done in partnership with the Oriental Land Company, so maybe they're not going to want to participate in Lorcana, but I fully expect that we will see a Tokyo Disneyland adjacent event announced, hopefully at D23, but at some point here soon. Next, I expect to hear a little bit about the collector's box, the collector's booster box that was leaked and then officially announced. We know that it is coming with Into the Ink Dark, not the next set, but the following set, set 15? Yeah, set 15 of the game. I expect they're going to go a little bit more in depth about what that is. I am very skeptical of the collector's booster boxes. I don't think that they've been good for other games that have used them. I think that dividing the products that they sell into these two different segments, I don't think it's a good idea. But that could be its whole own conversation. I'm willing to withhold judgment until we find out exactly what is going to be in the boxes. But for the time being, I'm not a huge fan of the idea just in concept. But I think we will hear more about that. It's kind of the next big thing for Lorcana. So I expect to hear more about the collector's booster boxes. I expect that we're going to hear that Lorcana will be returning to the Epcot Festival of the Arts with their like Collector's Quest and Scavenger Hunt event. I thought that was great. One of the best things that Lorcana has done so far. I think they could push it even further, and so I fully expect them to announce a new one coming to Epcot. I imagine it'll be pretty similar, but probably with like new cards and stuff, and obviously it'll be a newer set, but I expect that we will hear something about that, and maybe even an event coming to another park, like maybe Disneyland, California Adventures, Food and Wine might have one. Who knows? I fully expect something like that, and I wouldn't be surprised if we also heard something about a new event coming to the cruise lines. We know that they have cruise line specific promos that they've tested out from time to time. I wouldn't be surprised if they did a more regular thing with Lorcana on the cruise ships, and we hear about that at this D23. Now, I think the most obvious thing that we should expect to see is some information about Hyperia City. I think we will start to see some more cards revealed. We already know that Coco is coming to Hyperia City, and we know that there is a new mechanic involving something called ink drops. They have released an image of the front of the new two-player collector's set, or two-player starter set, sorry. And the cards mention ink drops, so we'll probably learn something about that. We'll learn more about some of the cards coming to that. And I fully expect that they will announce a new IP, and I think it is going to be Luca. I think Luca will be in Hyperia City. All the press releases keep mentioning that Hyperia City is not just a city, but there's also a bunch of mysterious waterways. And I don't think they would be mentioning the waterways if there wasn't going to be something water-related in that. I mean, I fully expect to see like the Little Mermaid and stuff come back as well. But I'm thinking it's going to be Luca. Like the second Pixar property will be Luca. So why do I think it's going to be Luca instead of Finding Nemo, the big Pixar water-based property? And the reason for that is I think Finding Nemo is a bigger property. I think that is the kind of property they would want to put on the packaging and in the promotional materials. And we've already seen the packaging and a lot of the promotional materials for Hyperia City. So I don't think that it's going to be Finding Nemo. I think Luca is more along the lines of Turning Red. In fact, it would have been relatively new when they would have been developing this set. So I could totally see them wanting to get Turning Red and Luca in there around the same time. So I think Luca is going to be the big new Pixar IP that we see announced for Hyperia City specifically. Now, they did announce IPs for future sets the last time. So they announced Black Cauldron, Pocahontas, Pixar. All of those came much later from the D23. Obviously, we just got most of those. So I fully expect to see more IPs in a similar vein announced this time. So I expect to see at least one more Pixar IP, one more just general Disney IP, and then like a big sort of Pixar-esque announcement. We'll get to that one in a second. So for Pixar, I'm going to go ahead and predict Cars. I've seen some discussion that maybe Cars won't show up because a lot of the characters are based on actual makes and models of cars, and there's extra copyright issues there. I think maybe they'll just leave out all those characters. Cars is way too popular of an IP to not put in this game. They are absolutely going to want to put Lightning McQueen on the packaging of a set. So I think Cars might be the big Pixar IP that they announced for a future set. For Disney, I'm going to say The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It is the 30th anniversary of The Hunchback of Notre Dame this year. There's a big booth selling Hunchback merchandise. That's another one that I've seen people discuss that, like, oh, Hunchback it's too dark. The subject matter is too dark, and Disney doesn't like to talk about it anymore or do stuff with Hunchback. That's a lie. Disney still uses Hunchback in stage and like shows at Disneyland, and they sell merchandise. I just got some 30th anniversary pins a couple weeks ago. Yes, there is some dark subject matter that I guarantee you Lorcana will not cover. As much as it pains me, I don't think we will get a Hellfire card because not just the subject matter, but I don't think Disney will allow them to use the word hell, even though I don't think that's a bad word, but whatever. And then they could just ignore all the like racial stuff and the genocide stuff. I mean, they did it with Pocahontas. They're kind of ignoring that, like the controversial stuff there. So I don't think Hunchback is a problem. In fact, I think Hunchback, it's the last of the big Disney Renaissance movies other than Tarzan, which has its own legal issues. So I expect Hunchback is going to come to Lorcana, and I think it'll be announced at D23. I'm also predicting that there's going to be another Disney TV show announced. Last time they did Rescue Rangers. I could see them doing something like Gummy Bears, because that would be really cool, and that's like the last big Disney afternoon show, but I think they're actually going to get a little newer. I'm going to predict Phineas and Ferb, which might upset some people that are not as nostalgic for it, but Phineas and Ferb is so popular, they are still making new episodes. I think Phineas and Ferb is going to come to Lorcana at some point, and I think we might see it announced at D23. So that's my prediction there. And now, as for what could have the same weight as something like Pixar, unfortunately, I don't really think anything could. Pixar is kind of its own thing, right? They announced Pixar, and that gives you like 30 other movies to pull from, right? It's not just announcing a new IP. So it's hard to predict something like that because I don't think anything else carries the same weight. Now, I do think they can maybe do like live action. I do think live action stuff is going to come to Lorcana eventually, even though a lot of people think it won't. I do think it will. I don't think they're going to announce it this time. So I've kind of narrowed it down to 3 things that I think none of them would be as big, but I think are all kind of big in the same kind of vein. I'm going to start with what I think is the most likely and then end with what I think is the least likely. Most likely, I think, is the Nightmare Before Christmas. The Nightmare Before Christmas is one of Disney's biggest IPs. They sell merchandise of it like crazy. It's in Ravensburger's other Disney game, Villainous. Oogie Boogie is in that. The Nightmare Before Christmas is a matter of when, not if. So I do think we could see The Nightmare Before Christmas announced at D23, hopefully to come out next around Halloween next year. My second kind of in the middle is the Disney parks. The Disney parks are such a big part of the Disney brand and a big part of the Disney identity, and they have such a huge following, and they do have a lot of original characters and ideas that could go into Lorcana, stuff like Figment and Dreamfinder, all the Haunted Mansion ghosts, the non-movie Pirates of the Caribbean characters like Red, the Tiki Room, the Country Bears. There's all kinds of stuff that could absolutely work in Lorcana, and I think it would be a big draw. And the parks are such a big part of D23, I can absolutely see them wanting to be like, and guess what? Figment is coming to Lorcana. I could see that happening at some point. I'm a little skeptical of it. For now, I do think it's going to happen eventually. I'm a little skeptical that it'll happen so soon because there's still so much animated stuff they could get through in the time being. But I could see that being like the big like mic drop sort of announcement for Lorcana is the parks stuff coming to the game. And my last sort of, I guess, wild card pick is the Muppets. I know I said no live action stuff. The Muppets kind of toes the line. They are live action technically because they are puppets, but they are essentially cartoon characters just in the real world, right? There are frogs and dogs and bears and pigs and whatevers. So I could see... I see the Muppets coming to Lorcana at some point. The Muppets are kind of having a moment right now ever since Muppet Vision 3D was closed in Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World. There's been a big outcry from Muppet fans for more attention to the Muppets from Disney, and they've honestly kind of been doing that. They just rethemed Rock and Roller Coaster. They did the Sabrina Carpenter special on Disney Plus and ABC, and I fully expect that to get announced for more episodes at D23. There's been a big push for more merchandise and anniversaries for things like Treasure Island. So I can see the Muppets being something they want to get in Lorcana sooner rather than later. Even if they don't do other live action stuff, I can see the Muppets coming. But I think that might be a ways off because this sort of Muppet love is only kind of just now happening. So if Lorcana is only just now starting on it, that could be a couple years away. So, but those are my big three, what I think they could announce as the big IP announcement. I really think it's going to be The Nightmare Before Christmas, but you know, it could be any number of things. So, otherwise, I expect we'll see maybe some more concept art for Into the Ink Dark, especially if they talk about the collector's box boosters. And then we will probably get the name for that set they teased that has Stitch and Leroy on it. I don't expect to see any cards or anything, but maybe the name and the logo. That could be something that we see. And as for my wild card sort of predictions, I guess you could say the Muppets is a wild card prediction, but my two wild cards are, one is a digital client. Everybody's been talking about a digital client for forever. I think it's gonna happen eventually. I don't think it's time. I think that it's still a ways off. I'm sure they're developing it, but video games, the digital space is just such a different place, especially for Disney, who has so many hands and so many pies when it comes to the digital, the mobile games and stuff, that they're going to have to go through a third-party developer, and they're going to have to deal with licensing and licensing fees, and Disney's going to want their say in it and how it's monetized and everything. I think it's probably a mess. I think it's going to happen eventually. I don't think we're going to hear about it at D23, but we could. So that's why I put it on my wild cards. My next wild card, this one's going to upset some people, I think, is a Fortnite collab. Now, if you don't know, Disney has a 10% share in Epic Games, the creators of Fortnite. And Fortnite had a pretty large presence at the Parks panel last D23, where they brought out all the heads of all the studios, like Kevin Feige and Pete Docter and Jennifer Lee, and they just talked about like Disney stuff that was coming to Fortnite, like the Mandalorian Grogu's coming to Fortnite. Like it was so bizarre, like it completely like stalled that presentation in its tracks. But anyway, I don't think that we're going to get Fortnite cards necessarily, but I could absolutely see them doing something in Fortnite related to Lorcana. Like maybe you can unlock an ink caster as a weapon, or like an outfit based on the different ink types, or even just like a Lorcana back of a card like glider or backpack. I can see a Fortnite collab happening. If they want to push Lorcana to be more mainstream, putting it in Fortnite, one of these things that they sort of own that has eyes on it constantly. They are always putting new Disney stuff into Fortnite. There's like Disney Tsum Tsums in Fortnite. And speaking of Disney Tsum Tsums, there is a Lorcana crossover in Disney Tsum Tsum in Japan, the mobile game. So I don't think Fortnite is out of the question for Lorcana showing up in Fortnite. So that's a weird one. Maybe they won't announce it, but I absolutely could see at some point a Fortnite collab with Lorcana. So that's kind of it for all my predictions. The last thing I wanted to mention was I've seen a lot of talk about Kingdom Hearts. Yes, Kingdom Hearts fans do not know how to not talk about Kingdom Hearts. And to be fair, there is a Kingdom Hearts panel happening at D23. It is going to be on Saturday. The Lorcana panel is on Friday. So people think that, oh, there's going to be a Kingdom Hearts panel and a Lorcana panel. This is the perfect time to announce Kingdom Hearts for Lorcana. And while I would agree with you, I don't think that means anything. There's also a Bob's Burgers panel. There's a Muppets panel. There's a Simpsons panel. There's a Bluey movie panel. There's a Bedknobs and Broomsticks anniversary panel. Are all of those things going to get announced for Lorcana? No, I don't think so. I think Kingdom Hearts, there's a big new Kingdom Hearts game in development right now. Disney's really embracing Kingdom Hearts recently. I just think it's a coincidence. I don't think the two are going to cross over. Not yet, and it's not going to be announced at D23. I don't get your hopes up just because you look at the schedule and you're like, oh, there's a Lorcana panel and a Kingdom Hearts panel. 2 separate days, 2 separate times, 2 separate groups of people involved with those. Just, it could happen. I never say never, but I wouldn't hold my breath. So, yeah, what do you think is going to happen at this year's D23? Are you excited for all the announcements? We'll revisit this after D23 happens and see what I got right and what I got wrong at some point. That'll be fun if I can, get off my butt and make that video. Otherwise, yeah, let me know what you want to see and what you're hoping for D23 and Lorcana. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave this video a like and share it around. Comment. I already told you to comment. I don't know why I'm telling you to do it again. And yeah, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one. TTFN. Ta-ta for now. I am glistening because it's like 1,000,000 degrees in this house.